Hello, I am the last teller and tonight's story is real. This story comes from a man named Dan from Liverpool, England. Dan was only 15 years old when he started. It began with something completely ordinary, the kind of moment every kid experiences at some point, waking up in the middle of the night, needing to relieve himself. His bedroom was upstairs, however the bathroom was downstairs. So in the middle of the night, half asleep, he got out of bed and began walking down the dark staircase. The house was silent as everyone was asleep. The only light came from a faint glow of the street lights leaking through the hallway window. At the bottom of the stairs, the toilet was across a short corridor. Right beside the bathroom door was a small cupboard, just a normal household cupboard, the kind you never think twice about. Dan shuffled towards the toilet, still barely awake, and that's when the cupboard door burst open. A shadow lunged at him. No face, no body, just darkness shaped like a person. It grabbed his throat. Dan started screaming, thrashing, fighting and kicking. He tried to shout for his parents, his siblings, anyone. No one came. No one woke up. The hallway felt soundproof, like the world had gone silent. He fought harder, using everything he had, clawing at the shape strangling him, until finally he managed to grab the shadow's neck and squeeze harder until it stopped moving, until he went limp, until the darkness faded, and suddenly he woke up, back in his bed, his younger brother shaking him, asking, "Why were you screaming in your sleep?" Dan felt a wave of relief crash over him. It was a nightmare, just a dream, nothing more. Weeks passed, then months. Life returned to normal, until one evening, Dan was home alone. He heard footsteps downstairs, clear but slow and heavy. He assumed his family was home early, so he went downstairs to greet them, but the house was empty. Every room, every corner, no one. He told himself he imagined it, but not long after that, something even worse happened. One evening again, he was home alone, lying in bed, when suddenly the bedroom door slammed open. Standing in the doorway was an old woman, tall, thin, motionless, wearing a long, dirty red dress. Her hair hung in tangled strands around her face. Her eyes locked onto him and said nothing. Dan began screaming, crying, praying, begging to wake up from what he thought was another nightmare. Then suddenly he heard the front door open downstairs, footsteps rushing up the steps. His dad burst into the room. He heard Dan screaming from outside the house. This wasn't a dream. Dan told his family everything, and they thought it was stress, imagination, or perhaps just another dream that he thought was perhaps a little too real. Something explainable, something normal. But that woman never left. From then on, Dan would see her, walking past his bedroom door, sitting silently in the corner of rooms, watching from edge of his vision as he passed hallways. Eventually, he stopped being scared. Because when something refused to leave, you learn to live with it. Years later as an adult, his cousin Chris went to stay at Dan's house. Chris slept in the room next door. At approximately 2 a.m, he woke up to Dan shouting, telling someone to leave him alone. Chris ran into the room. Dan was sitting on the bed, scrolling on his phone, calm, casual, as if nothing had happened. So Chris asked, "Who were you shouting at?" Dan looked up and replied, "Didn't you hear? It was that old woman. She just wouldn't leave me alone." Sometimes, when horror turns into reality, you stop trying to escape it. You start living with it. And who knows, maybe that shadow Dan strangled in his dream was more real than he ever realized. The next story is from a woman named Priya from Mumbai, India. Priya had always been fascinated by the supernatural, ghost stories, haunted places, village legends. She loved hearing about them, but to be honest, she never truly believed in any of it, not until the summer of 2008. That year, Priya went to stay at her grandmother's house in the family village. It was far from the chaos of Mumbai. Quiet roads, dense trees, old houses, and stories local didn't like to talk about after dark. One evening, Priya visited her cousin's house that lived a short walk away. They lost track of time, talking and laughing, just enjoying the time. By the time she left to walk back to her nan's house, it was already night. The route home was simple. First you had to pass a small bridge, then the reservoir, then the worst stretch, a narrow road with the graveyard on one side and the woods on the other. Only after that she would reach home. But Priya wasn't afraid. After all, she didn't believe in ghosts. She walked confidently into the night. The village was silent, except insects and distant water moving in the reservoir. As she reached the bridge, she heard a voice behind her. A man's voice, calling, "Oi, Priya, wait." She turned around immediately. There was no one. The road behind her was empty. She laughed nervously and shook her head. Just an imagination, she thought. She kept walking. A few minutes later, she reached the reservoir. Water rippled softly in the dark. Then she heard it again. Closer this time. "Oi, Priya, wait." Her heart sank. It skipped a beat. She spun around immediately. Still, no one was there. Now fear began creeping in. Of course, not of ghosts. But she thought maybe someone was following her. Maybe someone wanted to hurt her. So she started walking faster, her footsteps echoing louder than before. Then she reached the narrow road between the graveyard and the woods. The darkest part of the journey, the hardest part. And the voice returned. Angrier, even closer, and this time, everywhere. It said, "Oi, didn't I tell you to wait?" The sound didn't come from behind her. It came from all directions. Left, right, ahead, behind. Priya stopped walking. Her breathing turned shallow. Slowly she looked around, and again, nothing. No movement. There was no people. Then finally, she looked up, and she wished she hadn't. Perched on a tree branch above the road was a figure, sitting like a child, swaying its legs, but he had no face, no eyes, only a mouth. A long bright tongue hung out, swaying with his movement. Something dark was dripping from the tip of his tongue. The figure smiled, wider and wider. Priya tried, but she couldn't scream. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't even move until her body chose to finally move. She ran faster than she ever had in her life. She didn't remember even reaching home. All she remembered was just seeing her mother, and everything went dark. She woke up the next morning with a burning fever. Her family surrounded her bed, worried. When she told them what happened, the room went quiet. Her grandmother sighed. Then she said, "You shouldn't walk on that road at night. Everyone here knows that. After dark, it's not safe on that road." And that was all they said. No one explained further. That afternoon, Priya sat by the window, trying to calm herself. A river ran not far from the house. She stared at the water. Then suddenly, she saw a figure walking by the riverbank. As the figure got closer, she realized it was an old woman. It was her elderly neighbor from Mumbai, a neighbor who lived a full day's journey away from that village. The woman stopped at the river's edge, slowly turned her head, staring directly at Priya, smiling. And that's when Priya called her mum, asking, "Why is she here?" pointing out the window. When Priya looked back, the riverbank was empty. No woman, no one, not even any footprints. Her mother looked confused. Priya forced a laugh, saying, "Never mind, I thought I saw someone." The next day, Priya packed her bags, and she told her mother that she missed her friends, and that she wanted to return to Mumbai. And since then, she had never gone back to that village. And that's why sometimes, when something calls your name, perhaps you should just ignore it. And this brings us to the end of tonight's video. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next upload. And thank you so much for watching. Until next time, good night.